We are at a pivotal point when it comes to the EV adoption.
So in the last 10 years, we have been the largest exporter of two-wheelers, petrol in the world.
Maintaining the charging station is becoming more expensive than even installing that.
I know it's a long day, it's been a long day with 3 back-to-back sessions and we are here at the 10th Smart Cities Expo discussing technology and the future of mobility. So I do hope, I know it's a long day for you, so I do hope I managed to keep the interest, and I do promise you that we have some very interesting discussions on this very important topic on how do we overcome range anxiety. So a very, very warm welcome to all the wonderful panelists who have joined us here, as well as the audience who are taking keen interest in the discussions. But before I sort of begin the discussion, I would like to give you a quick introduction about the organization that I represent. So I am a program lead at International Council on Clean Transportation, and we are an independent think tank which does technical analysis and work on decarbonizing the transport sector. So we do a lot of work on light duty vehicle electrification, heavy duty vehicle electrification, fuels, freight, and the charging infrastructure. Our work supports the ministries as well as the state governments in policy implementation. So yeah, I think now the topic for the discussion is range anxiety, but it really warrants a discussion on the India's EV story, because that is how it is connected. So I know, all of you must be aware that we are at a pivotal point when it comes to the EV adoption. If you look at the penetration, we have hit 7% in the calendar year 2024, and the adoption is actually picking up across all the key segments, be it two-wheelers, be it three-wheelers, passenger vehicles, buses, or even, at a very, very early stage, but also commercial vehicles like trucks. And all of this has been made possible because of very supportive policy measures by the Government of India. So right from the FAME scheme, which started in 2015 with the second iteration of FAME scheme, and now we have the PM E-Drive scheme. So there has been a lot of policy impetus to driving this EV adoption. So yes, things are happening, and we are, while at the early stages, but we are sort of, on the stage to scale up adoption at a mass scale. But at the same time, again, and the other interesting story, all of you might be aware, is that Delhi has also sort of proposed a very ambitious policy as we speak. So 95% of all the new vehicle registrations have to be electric by 2027. So that's a very commendable and a very ambitious goal to reach. So while all of this is really happening at the center stage, at the same time, there has been a lot of concern. There have been sort of concerns about the barriers, about adoption barriers as well at the same time, which is sort of inhibiting consumers to purchase electric vehicles. And one of the key concerns is obviously range anxiety, which is, what if my vehicle runs out of charge before I reach my destination? So this is one of, apart from the cost, Indian consumers are very cost conscious, but the charging infrastructure, the range anxiety is also a very critical, decision which sort of influences their decision. Now, how do we really solve this problem? We've been having these discussions right from the time the EV adoption story started happening in India, picking up pace in India. But how do we solve for the story? So as I see it, I think there are a couple of ways that we can tackle. Either we invest within the vehicle. That means that we maybe invest in the battery, sizing a larger battery, which is a standard approach, to increase the range. Or we, invest in the charging infrastructure ecosystem. We scale up the deployment of, fast charging stations. So there are two ways, broad ways to, solve for the problem. But is this really that simple? Because each option comes with its own set of trade-offs. If you look at the standard approach of, having a larger, battery, then obviously it is equivalent to reducing the efficiency. you are leaving less room, within the vehicle, and obviously, it reduces your efficiency, and at the same time increases the cost because the size of the battery is larger. So it's not that easy. There are other ways to look at it. Perhaps we can look at, the high density approach, investing in different kinds of advanced chemistry cells, different chemistries, advanced chemistries, next generation batteries. So that is already happening. Research is happening. However, it's not really scaled up to that level. And lastly, I think, there's another way which we can look at is perhaps, the vehicle design optimization. How do we really, design a vehicle which is lightweight, which can increase the efficiency? And lastly, which I spoke of, is how do we really scale up, the charging infrastructure ecosystem, building more fast chargers across the country. So these are, couple of ways that I see that we could solve for this problem. But let's maybe consider the last bit first, the charging infrastructure ecosystem and where we are, what is the status quo. So I was actually, just before this session, I was at another session which was being organized by Niti Aayog along with other different states, and there was this very interesting statistic which was presented by the Ministry of Heavy Industries, is that in India we have reached around 32,500 chargers. And if we just compare it with the scale of the deployment of chargers in China, which is like 12 million. So you can consider the gap where we are and where other economies which are much advanced in their EV adoption. And as per our own research, which is ICCT's research, we find that India would need around 300,000 public chargers by 2030. And it will be equivalent to a cost of more than INR 40 crore. So there is a huge volume of investment that also needs to happen to scale up this charging infrastructure. But if we look at, so there are these, broad level issues. We've looked at, where we are, and there is a lot of gap to cover. So I think I have sort of set the context, a little bit on what the issues are, and I would like now to discuss these issues in a little depth with our panelists. So perhaps I'll begin with Amit, you first, Amit. So you represent an organization called DADB Germany, and you're also the founder of Electric One. You have wealth of experience, in the EV space. You've seen how deployments have happened in Germany, which is one of the market leaders in EV adoption. So I would like to understand from you, what do you feel are, some of the key barriers which are scaling, hindering charging infrastructure deployment, and also what kind of lessons can we, learn from markets like Germany?
Thank you so much. I think before I start, it's very important to understand how many of you drive two-wheelers? Okay, so may I ask you, how many of you have driven two-wheelers, electric? So I think that's the answer, because many less people drive electric scooters or cars, and they're hesitant to try it in India before buying. So I think the buying decision comes when you try it out. So test drives are most important for me when we think about EVs, and that will lead to larger adoption. Example, because you mentioned China. In China, I think almost 98% of two-wheelers are electric, and 2% maybe petrol. And the reason being, there's a mass adoption. They know what they are using for, and there's a good, I'll say, public charging infrastructure which are working. So I'll emphasize, in Germany also, for example, people know that if I go to a charging station, it's working, it's self-sufficient. There's a preventive approach in terms of keeping it work continuously. So I think if you ask from my perspective in India, and the first thing which can help us, all of us, to adopt EV will be to analyze that, okay, what I'll be using my vehicle for. Number one, I need to go to office, I need to go to my school or colleges, I need to roam around on the street. So I need to be very clear about the choice of vehicles, the range which I want to cover, and which are the options for me to charge the vehicle. if the options are very clear to me that, okay, I'll be able to charge, if I go from here to, let's say, Connaught Place, there's a public charging station and I'll be able to charge it properly, that solves many things which comes up in the minds. Because I remember 2 years back, I drove from Gurgaon to CP and basically in an electric car, and I was not able to locate charging station. Okay, that's okay. Maybe that's my issue. I was not very tech savvy then. But when I located few charging station, 3 of them was not working. 1 of them was working. So for me, it was quite a horrific experience. How will I go back to my place base? So it kinds of I think it's a work of private and public partnerships to help all of us get that confidence that, okay, there is a system which will help you charge. There is a definite charging ecosystem. There is a definite way of charging your vehicle fast, because many people don't want to wait. Even if I have to wait, I don't have to spend 200, maybe $1,000 in the Starbucks, because I'm charging cheap, but I have to wait for 1 hour, so I need to spend some time, and I need to spend more money on charging. So I think these are few things which has to be clubbed together, providing an economical way of thinking. As I mentioned, in Germany, all the charging stations are independent. They are run by solar grids. The cost of charging is very low. Unlike here, where we top up the cost, and from 16 rupees unit, which is a normal cost of electricity, it goes up to even 30 or 50 rupees in some cases, maybe. And that is almost twice the value for money, which I'm paying for charging my electric car or two-wheeler. Also, I feel because you mentioned about what it will take for us to adopt EV, I feel the vehicle and the batteries should be detached completely. Battery should be more like energy as a service, because I think now Morris garages have started their car, which is basically on rentals. You can pay your per usage on the batteries. So if I have to detach between vehicles and the batteries, the cost goes 40% down. My monthly expenditure, I'm very clear about that. Okay, I need to spend this much amount on the batteries, and that helps a lot. Because why will I top 40% energy on the top of the vehicle? If I go to buy a petrol car or maybe a petrol scooter, nobody gives me ask me to pay 100% advance for 3 years of petrol consumption. So why should an EV consumer pay for the battery if he has to use it over the period of next 5 years? Okay, so these are few things which I feel from my perspective, from Indian, German or Japanese perspective, will help us adopt EV from larger scale.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing those views. So you did mention access as well as the reliability of chargers. I do agree. There have been various cases of vandalism which have been reported across the states which are leading in charging infrastructure deployment, be it Maharashtra, Karnataka, Delhi, and that's obviously a very big issue for consumers. At the same time, you also mentioned this interesting new concept which has been innovated by MG. Yes, they have with the battery as a service model, they have managed to capture market share, and it is picking up interest from consumers. So what I'm hearing is, you need to solve for the reliability, you need to solve for access, as well as the same time you need to do business model innovations, so that consumers have the confidence in the product. So that's an interesting take. I also want to understand, how do you see the role of international collaboration and in technology transfer in sort of addressing India's EV charging infrastructure challenges?
See, I feel that first of all, we should accept the fact that our neighboring countries have started talking, thinking and educating about electric vehicles 20 years back. It's almost 2 decades. So in the last 10 years, we have been the largest exporter of two-wheelers, petrol in the world. That's quite commendable. So companies like Honda, Hero, Bajaj and TVS contribute to world's largest export of petrol two-wheelers in the world. That's quite commendable. But in the last 2 decades, I'll say China has mastered the art of creating EVs which are globally accepted, and probably they can sell it across the globe. You have to go to Shanghai port to see how much load is there on the shipment every day. But now India is one of the fastest growing economy. We are the largest population in the world, and we have 1/3 less area than China. That means that if you have to commute and commute efficiently, we need obviously electric vehicles to commute, possibly. Uh, See, international trade organization need to accept the fact that it's not only job of one country to build up the ecosystem and be number one and number two. It's a global sustainable, I'll say, phenomena which has to be developed. If somebody, if countries can collaborate together, because some countries may be good in charging ecosystem, some countries may be good in software ecosystem, some may be good in hardware ecosystem. So I think if we can think globally on a sustainable perspective of lowering the cost of research, collaborating, and possibly increase the usage, because I don't want to use something which is already used in Germany 5 years back, because I want to be the best, I want to use the best one in India also, at the cost which I can afford, and particularly because my per capita income in India is lower than Germany, okay, and then I'm paying the higher cost for the same service. It doesn't make sense at all. So I think it needs, we should be open, number one, that okay, we are in a transition phase from, we are just 2% or 3% in the EV adoption maybe right now, so we have to accept that fact that we have started a bit late. Nevertheless, there are countries which are already strong in this field, which use circular economy and Industry 5.0 to reduce the wastages right now. So I feel, the main philosophy will be to collaborate on few parts. If you ask me particularly, we should be very clear about the charging ecosystem development as the first thing, which has to be very, very strong in India, followed by the right choice of vehicle. Because in India, generally, people sell and we buy. We don't choose and buy cars or two-wheelers, because if somebody is buying Ola, somebody is buying Morris garages, I want a 7-seater. But I've seen in other countries of the world, people have 2-seater cars also, and that consume less space. So I don't need to buy a big car to go to office every day. You need to save space and also energy consumption. So these are few things which comes from awareness, and I feel tech is just a start in the EV space. There's a lithium battery, there's a solid-state lithium battery coming up, more formats coming up. There's a 5-minute charging ecosystem by BYD right now. So it's just a start. We have to really reimagine how the next 10 years is going to be. For me, it's very fascinating to feel right now how the 10 or 15 years is going to be, in the mobility space. And ride sharing and peer sharing is something which I feel will come up very drastically. The idea of ownership and sharing, is something which will evolve in the going future, and that's where the companies which are investing in India and the FDI and coming to India for a huge population should also think of mass adoption and technology transfers at the grassroots level.
Thank you. Since we did mention international collaboration and tech transfer, I think at this point I would like to bring in Fedorov Vladimir. So Fedorov, you were also, from the company Intermobility EVA. So I think the organizer did not introduce other panelists, and neither did I. So it will be, worthwhile to hear a little bit about your background, your company, and then my question to you will be, globally, what do you see have been the most effective strategies in tackling range anxiety? And from your experience, if you could highlight, because you're a Moscow-based company, so what are some of the lessons that, what is happening in Moscow, something that can be, learned for the Indian market?
Hello. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to introduce our company. We are a company who implement all the EV technologies in Moscow. We operate more than 250 EV chargers throughout the city. We produce the chargers, and we also manage the infrastructure, and we develop our software and hardware to implement into the usage of the EV chargers users. So, what about your questions? I think that one of the biggest barriers to mass EV adoption is range anxiety, which was already mentioned not once and not twice. The fear of running out of battery before you will reach a charger. And however, many regions, including Moscow, China, and Europe, have already found some effective solutions for this. And first of all, and the most obvious, I think, is to expand the charging infrastructure. And in this matter, of course, China is in the first place of the world. And they have over 2 million public chargers, ensuring no EV is ever too far from a station. Moscow has significantly expanded its EV charging infrastructure, and we are on our way to accelerate this infrastructure through all over the city. Now it's more than 1,000 charging stations through all over the city, and through next 10 years we are going to expand this infrastructure up to 3,000 to 5,000 charging stations. India is still in the early stage, and but different initiatives of private and government authorities help to accelerate the rollout and fast chargers across major highways and urban city centers. The second one is the usage of ultra-fast charging networks. For instance, such superchargers as with much power as 150 to 250 kilovolts may cut charging time to just 15 to 20 minutes. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, ultra-fast chargers are being installed along major highways to facilitate the intercity EV travel. The next point I must stress is the standardization of charging ports, I think. In the US and Europe, they adopt the CCS combined charging system as a global standard. In Moscow and Russia, we mostly use the mix of these technologies, CCS, GPT, and CHAdeMO. CHAdeMO is less known but and less spread. And India adopting a single standardized charging protocol will accelerate for sure the infrastructure growth and interoperability. Smart charging and renewable integration. Many countries are integrating smart grids with EV chargers to balance electricity demand and prevent overload in the grid. Moscow used some solar power charging stations, and India should follow the similar path. And the last point I want to stress is that the public awareness and education, and it was already mentioned here that many potential EV buyers overestimate their daily driving needs. The average Indian driver commutes just 40 to 50 kilometers per day, which is well within the range of most EVs. So by adopting these strategies, India and Moscow can make range anxiety a thing of the past.
Thank you so much. You brought a couple of points here. One, you did mention that your company is striving to scale up charging infrastructure, and you did mention solar charging along with the next point on consumer education. So I have like a couple of questions on the solar charging bit. So yeah, even in India, we have guidelines from Ministry of Power where they encourage solar charging. However, what we find is that it is not always viable, and we really have to couple it with battery energy storage, and that sort of knocks up your viability of a charging station. And given we have very poor utilization levels in India, so the average utilization is less than 2% for a public charging station. So, I mean, if we look at sort of compare it with other advanced economies, it's 6 to 8%. So, I want to understand, while it is there in the policy documents, how do we really make it a reality? And what has been your experience in Moscow, as well as that's one part. The other is even as you're a CPO, so what are the major sort of issues that you see cropping up in the areas that you operate?
When we are talking about the solar power, it's the matter of the solar itself. I mean, in Moscow there are now such a lot of solar ship where we can use, and mostly we use our normal energy to contribute to our EV users. But again, as you have mentioned, the solar ship may reduce the electric consumption, which is renewable, and again it can reduce the structure overloading through all the country, and sometimes it may be useful to implement such technologies to those regions where it is impossible to install such kind of regular electronics. So it depends on the region where we are to install these chargers, and the main thing is to find the solutions, and it may enlarge the density of EV chargers through all over the country. But again, we need to understand that there need to be the structure, the electricity structure, and when we have lack of this electricity structure, we can use this solar energy.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe with that, I'll sort of move on to our next panelist, Parveen Yadav. He is the founder and MD of Electrify. And since we don't have one of our panelists who is representing DIMTS, which is a think tank which does a lot of transport and infrastructure consultancy work for STUs. Maybe I can ask you to bring in that perspective, because you're also doing a lot of work with the state governments and discoms. So Parveen, Electrify has been working on EV charging networks. What are the biggest challenges as an industry, as an industry operator in scaling fast charging infrastructure in India? And yeah, maybe if you can answer that, and we can sort of build on that conversation a little bit.
Hello everyone. So you touched upon the prospects of the public, but I will let you know what are the challenges for CPO to scale up in the industry as well. So one of the major challenges in the country is about the high capex cost to set up a charging station. So frankly speaking, maintaining the charging station is becoming more expensive than even installing that, because we have seen reports of thefts as well on the charging stations, and India currently, we can say that is not practically ready for seamless integration of the chargers as well, because comparing India with other countries is other countries are usually used to the self-drive and self-usage of the chargers and even the petrol pumps as well. But India is new to this topic, and we have faced certain issues as a charge point operators to maintain those charging stations and give the quality to the customers. And the ROI, as you mentioned, that it is only 2 to 3% of utilization. The ROI plays a big role in this. That scaling up is a cash burn for us also. So this is the basic hindrance that we follow and we face in setting up and scaling up the charging stations. And again, from different, as a government perspective, the government has not yet standardized the charging stations and even the connectors as well. And there are also differences in the government policies, stating like, even if we see Delhi NCR, so Delhi NCR has three regions, Delhi, Gurgaon and Noida. If you set up a charging station in Delhi, the landed electricity cost at Delhi would be 4.5 rupees. And if you go to Haryana, it adds up to 7 rupees. Then if we go to Noida, then it adds up to 9 rupees. So in a small region, you have three different policies, three different discoms and three different prices to set up a EV charging station. And as a CPO, if we set up a charging station in Noida, those won't work because people will prefer Delhi charging station because it will have a lower cost. And even for the government policies as well, government have started the initiatives of PPP, but the implementation is yet to be done. Government rolled out the policy a few times back that we can partner with different agencies and ministries and acquire the vacant land and set up a charging station there, and we can work on a profit sharing model, revenue sharing model. But there is no single window clearance for CPOs and other operators as well. So that's also issue which we face in setting up a charging station at government locations. Now, the different ministries and different government organizations are very reluctant to give their spaces to CPOs to set up a charging station because they know if we set up a normal rental shop, that would earn more for that same piece of land than setting up a charging station. So getting those lands is also a difficult task, and convincing the government departments to provide those lands to us is another challenge for us. And moving forward, even the public lands as well. Setting up a charging stations at busy places and high demand areas is very difficult because the rental cost of this place is very high. So the ROI doesn't work out. We have to invest more to get the land, we have to invest more on the infrastructure, then the ROI is very less. So, generally the break even is around 7 to 8 years for a charging infrastructure. But if we calculate about the different petrol pumps, diesel pumps, CNG pumps, the ROI is in 3 years and 3.5 years. So that's where the difference lies. And that's where the people are also reluctant to go to the charging stations because of the timings. The new manufacturing hubs are also not there. In the near future, when the EVs only started at adoption level, the government policies were not made. So in the starting phase only, the users had very bad experience. Like the chargers were not working, they were not reliable, they were not giving the good power output to charge their EVs. Generally EV would take around 50 to 60 minutes to charge, but it was taking longer due to the poor quality of the charging infrastructure. And even from the infrastructure side of the discoms, like if we have to set up a charging station and get the power load, the electrical infrastructure from the government side is still not ready to take up that much of load at different locations. Just giving you an example, recently we started a development of a charging hub in Delhi. We only needed a connection of 300 kilowatt, and the project cost was around 2.5 crore, and we got a quotation from the government, the discom, of 3 crore to just procure the electricity. So that was pretty much over the budget, and this cost of setting up the infrastructure is lesser than obtaining power. That's also a big challenge for the CPO to get the power connection and get the infrastructure ready from the government as well. Discoms, in every state, the discoms policies are different. How they are working is different. How we have to get the connections is a different process. So they have to be streamlined. A single window has to be created for the CPOs and for the electric vehicle charging stations as well. To overcome these challenges, if the CPOs are, starting to get these functions from the government, get these policies streamlined and getting a single window clearances from the government, then we will be very much happy to set up more charging stations and at a faster rate, because these are some steps which stop us from setting up new charging stations.
Thank you so much, Parveen. That was very insightful. So you did bring up a couple of different points, and one of them being, how it takes, so you have to coordinate with so many different agencies to get the EV connections as well as that too on time. So I feel, some part of it, the problem also is because there are multiple agencies which is involved. There is a DISCOM, there is a town planning authority, there is an open local body, then there is, so there is a Department of Transport, Department of Energy, and, everybody has a skin in the game. However, there is no ownership, I feel. So there needs to be one single entity which is responsible for the EV ecosystem development in a state. That's something perhaps is worth considering. At the other thing that you talked about was, the chargers are not reliable, and there is a lot of vandalism and all of those issues. No, we all know, we know about these problems which have been prevailing for a very long time now. Now, if we were to talk about the solutions, so can you, elaborate from your, what are the top 3 solutions that you would want to highlight and maybe throw up to the audience that you would think can solve or maybe address to a large extent the problem of range anxiety? And you can probably take the case of a city like Delhi, because I think it has one of the, best charging infrastructure ecosystem, not compared to other states. And so maybe you can take the example of Delhi and talk about what are the 3 main things that we can do.
So first one would be for, as I speak earlier, about the single window clearances from different governments and ministries and different departments as well. That would be the major step if government could do that for the CPO. That would help us a lot to, set up more charging stations and move aggressively for more better quality infrastructure. Second, standardizations of the policies. Like every state has their own policy in the EV space. So standardizations of the policies, what for the charging infrastructure and what a CPO has to go through to set up a charging infrastructure. The policy is still not very clear and not very implemented as well. Some states have their policies, but the implementation has not been done so far. We have been working in this domain from 5 to 6 years. Our first FAME policy was around 2018, but still the implementation part is very poor. Sorry to say, but still many departments have to do the implementation part. Third, standardization of the connectors of the EV charging station. We have slowly moved on to the CCS2, but it's yet to happen because earlier we were on the GBT standards, now we are working on the CCS standards. But recently I got a tender from a government agency, but that stated that we have to supply CHAdeMO chargers. And frankly speaking, India currently does not have even one vehicle that has a CHAdeMO connector. That also has to be think upon ki why do we have to supply a charger that's not even a use case. That's a cash burning asset for us also, because even if somebody has to set up and get the tender, they will have to fulfill that. So standardization is very important on the infrastructure part as well and on the software part as well. So currently we are working on the OCPP 1.6J, but we have to slowly move to OCPP 2.0. That will be a greater step as all the charging infrastructure would be connected through a single OCP protocol, and that has to be implemented as early as possible, because that will help the users to locate every charger from every CPO, even might be a government or might be some other company, like even if I say like Electrify, Adani's, Reliance, Statics, everybody's charger would be visible at one platform. Currently what people have to do is you have to locate a charger through different apps. At a single location there might be a government charger, there might be a static charger. Even if it's full, then you have to install another app to charge through the different chargers as well. So a single streamlined software integration should be better. That's 2 of the points. But third, that would be the procurement of land and the power infrastructure. Either there should be a process that even if we are procuring a land for the charging infrastructure, then we could get the DISCOMs to work out on the power infrastructure as well and to provide power for the EV infrastructure as well. but currently we do not have that key. If we have to set up a charging infrastructure and we get an application to the DISCOM that if the power is available at that location or not, they tend to take around 15 to 20 days to just update us about if the power is available or not. And sometimes they tell us to apply, if the power will be there, you will get that power. So that's also a big issue. So these are the main 3 points which can help us grow. If the CPOs will be growing, the people will be more confident in getting the EVs because they will get a reliable infrastructure, they will get a quality infrastructure where they can rely on, they can charge their vehicles. And if the implementations are done right, then we can also cut the cost down as a CPO to charge the vehicles. Like currently the average is around 17 to 18 rupees, and we can cut down these costs to around 12 to 13 rupees depending upon what implementations are done, how government can support us, and what PPP model government has for us.
Thank you so much. You brought a couple of different, important points. One is obviously the standardization of the charging connectors and standardization of EV policies, and at the same time, sorting out the issue of the land cost, availability of land. In fact, this was one of the important points which came up in the NITI discussion also, is that many of the state entities like urban local bodies which have land parcels available. For example, we talk about charging infrastructure for bus, which, you require like a 5-acre land for 100 buses. So that kind of huge land parcels are not available, and you need to have land at 2 different places. So that sort of increases your dead kilometers because, and then obviously the operators have to bear a loss. So there are different, issues that are there, even when it comes to availability of land. I completely hear your point, on solving for that aspect as well. I think I'll now move to Amit. Amit, so the fact is that when we talk of charging infrastructure, again, when we look at the charging patterns, two-wheeler and cars are mostly charged at home. Residential charging is most dominant. So therefore, the kind of infrastructure that we're talking about is home charging. So and we see that there have been various cases of RWAs having disputes with the tenants, who are not giving them permissions to to install chargers even in their private parking lots because of safety issues, because of fire hazards, and so many other things that are there. So what would you say, like how what kind of change needs to happen, or how can we bring RWAs into the fold, of maybe easing out this entire process for consumers so that they can have charging infrastructure at their disposal, and be it community charging in the RWA, or be it like their own private charger in their own private parking spot.
Okay, so I think let's say having not to go to a petrol pump is a good enough motivation for all of us right now, because we now order everything at home, right? So the right to charge at home is something which is going to be an obvious phenomena. So I think RWAs are now making it mandatory, at least I could say in Noida maybe, to have around I think 15 to 20% parking space allocated only for charging stations. That is being mandatory regulations now. I think Parveen, if you can confirm that. So that is one. Second, I think see, it's obviously hazardous because you don't have safety bracket available in the societies. For example, how many fire extinguishers are really working, what is the support staff in case of any fire, the reactive approach of ambulances coming up. So it's not just about the car causing fire, it's also about the ecosystem which RWA need to keep for the safety of the residents. So I think it's in totality, it's an entire ecosystem awareness than only talking about charging a car in the society. Obviously, people will charge at home because there's a ease, there's a less anxiety, and they know what they are charging for and how much they will drive. So nobody can change that perspective. It's going to increase further yeah, we need fast charging ecosystem in the societies, like community charging. Instead of charging independently or individually, it should be more like a community charging initiative so that everybody can charge properly at home. But I think more or less it's about the ecosystem also. Somebody asked me that why don't you keep fire extinguisher in your car, and it's very valid actually right now, because EVs are running on wires and batteries, and I feel though the battery regulations are getting tougher and tougher, and it's actually positive for the consumers, because now less fire incidences are happening compared to 2-3 years back, where you could every now and then hear about. So it's settling down a bit, but I think more or less it's an ecosystem approach, and it is going to increase a lot. When I look into my society in Gurgaon, I feel okay. I could easily count maybe out of 500 residents, there must be around 10 EVs. That's quite low a number for us to get motivated, all of us, and create a push in the ecosystem. So it can be other way around also, where you have more charging communities locally, more awareness camps locally, and more banks coming up with more options to support EV financing. These things will help adoption, and then I think it will come automatically. We are a very strong economy to react, and we can say just-in-time approach of Indian ecosystem can help a lot once the mass adoption of EV increases.
Thank you. So, very interesting point that you brought out regarding the right to charge. I think if that is implemented, then it will give the consumers the certainty and the assurance that if they will have a right to charge, and they can demand that right from their RWAs. So that's interesting, and yes, it's a factor of multiple things. Consumer adoption, if it picks up, then obviously charging infrastructure will sort of be scaled up to meet those needs and demands. I think now I'll again move to Fedorov. Fedorov, what do you see are the biggest opportunities in India especially for the charging infrastructure and for the ecosystem? What are the opportunities?
As I've already mentioned in my first topic, I think that the most opportunities concerns the using the infrastructure, and as India is on its the very beginning of using such kind of mobility, and mostly I think that you can implement the charging system for the mobiles which are not for cars, but maybe for small mobility system using, and for instance in China there are a lot of charging stations which just move out their batteries and change instantly such kind of charging points where you can change your battery fast and move forward, and I think that it's especially that throughout the city. I'm in India for the first time, but I see how much it's used the bicycles and other electric small mobility vehicles such as tuk-tuk or something like that. So it is possible, I think, that you can implement more this kind of charging points where it is mostly the fast charging point when you just change your battery and go forward. I think that it's the best thing you may implement.
Thank you so much. You mentioned, I think you were referring to battery swapping. Yes, I think battery swapping is one of the alternatives, and we have guidelines, and it is slowly going to pick up. Right now we have the plug-and-play charging mostly in India. However, Sun Mobility and other players are trying to scale it up in a big way. So yes, I think that's an interesting opportunity. I think we have touched upon various dimensions in this discussion. Now I think I'd like to throw the floor open to the audience. If you have any key questions on charging infrastructure, or on range anxiety, how do you overcome that? I think maybe you can just give yourself a brief introduction and pose the question to the respective panelists.
Yeah, hi, this is Aditya Basu. I'm an independent blogger and publisher. So I'm pretty interested in the EV space. If we look at Europe, I think they've set up a deadline of 2035 to phase out like selling of like combustion fuel engines. So they're going to have a hardcore implementation that after 235 you cannot buy it. So they have to transit. So automatically whatever government deficiencies are there, they have to overcome it. If RWAs have problems, they have to overcome it, because everybody will be like on EVs. In Europe, especially in London, what certain companies have done, they are starting to convert the lampposts into charging points. Not exactly for EVs, but maybe for scooters and all. There's a company called Chargy, and there's something called Simple Socket. So they are basically converting the lampposts out there into charging stations, which does create a problem a little bit with parking and all that, but still, like it's like a small space. So I think if you guys are thinking differently a little bit than acquiring huge lands and all, you can convert lampposts, and in future it's going to be EV. I don't know India's policy whether we're going to force implement phase out of combustion engines. So
Thank you. That was a very interesting point. And yes, you're right about the phase out of ICE vehicles in Europe. I think there are multiple things there. It's not just driven by the demand side policies in India. It's been a subsidy driven market. However, what is working in their country's favor is also supply side regulations, where you have stringent fuel efficiency norms which the companies have to meet, and no matter how much technology improvement they can do, beyond a certain point they will have to switch to electric vehicles to meet those FE norm targets. So that is one of the key factors which is driving the adoption of EVs in these markets. That's point one. And you mentioned about lamppost charging and curbside charging. These are innovative charging solutions which are coming up. In fact, I do also know about UK, where a couple of companies have pop-up chargers. So yeah, there are these innovations that are happening. I think even in India, Kerala is one of the states did try to implement lamppost charging, but I think a couple of other industry experts can sort of concur or maybe disagree that this also requires a lot of due diligence on the DISCOM's part, and how feasible it is given the condition of our distribution network, the status of our electricity infrastructure, and how we can implement it at scale. So it's not it sounds fancy, but it's anybody's guess on how the Kerala story panned out. I am not aware of that. Maybe a couple of other members from the panel. Parveen, if you would like to throw a response on that.
Sure. There are 2 points which we differ from the European countries to Indian infrastructure and ecosystem. That firstly, the weather conditions. The Europe has a nominal temperature of around 15-16 degrees in the summers, and even if the European countries touch 25-26, they declare heat waves and they tell you to stay at home. Whether in India you are experiencing 50 degrees as well. So that is very difficult for electric hardware to maintain and to run at such high temperatures, because 50 is the outside temperature. Then if you have to run at such high voltages, then temperature will go to 80-90 degrees. And usually the electronics are not meant to run at that temperatures. So that's where new innovations will be coming up in India, and how we can cater to the weather conditions in India. And the second thing, India is in the early stages of the EV adoption. So it will take time, the new innovations will come, and you will see better innovations, better quality of charging infrastructure, and the density of the charging points will also increase by the time. So European countries started around 15 years back. We are just 5-6 years in this industry. It will take time, it will happen, new innovations will come. It will surely be a better industry in the near future.
Thank you, Parveen. If there are no further questions, maybe it is my cue, I'll take it as a cue for the moderator to conclude this session. So we had a very insightful discussion and we had different viewpoints from industry experts on how do we really solve for the problem of range anxiety. And we had different suggestions such as right to charge being implemented for domestic consumers, improving the access, having reliability, of those charging stations and chargers, as well as standardization of charging connectors, which also means a lot of investment into R&D and tech innovation. So there were these multiple aspects that we did touch upon, and it was very interesting to hear viewpoints from all the panelists here. So I thank you all for a very insightful discussion and bringing your points of view. And I think with that I conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Krithika, the moderator of the session, for wonderfully conducting and also concluding the session. Ladies and gentlemen, with that we conclude our panel discussion on how to overcome range anxiety. And on behalf of Exhibition India Groups, we'd like to present a memento to our panelists. May I request Ms. Krithika, the moderator of the session, to present the mementos to our panelists. May we present a memento to Mr. Parveen Yadav. Thank you so much, Mr. Yadav. We also thank Mr. Amit Das. Thank you so much, Mr. Das, for joining us this evening. Presenting a memento to Mr. Amit Das. Once again, requesting Ms. Krithika to present the memento. And a big thank you to Mr. Vladimir. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. On behalf of Exhibition India Groups, we thank the moderator of the session, Ms. Krithika, and it's absolutely a privilege to present a memento to the moderator. Thank you so much.